And especially in like Catholic circles and Christian circles, there's this pressure that you have to have discerned. What's your discernment? What's your vocation? Have you chosen marriage? Have you chosen religious life? Have you chosen priesthood? There's this massive pressure on young people and this pressure to date. And people just go into dating and they just get hurt. They get hurt, they hurt the other person, and they have to go back to square one. So these are some questions that I thought were really important to look at. So this evening's talk, we haven't had something like this in a while, and this is something that made Pure in Heart quite attractive at the very beginning. Sorry, I just needed to move some furniture around. Basically, I think it's just to be nice for us. So I'm going to kind of give you, I suppose, my take on dating. Also, it's not just me taking it off air. It's coming from these fantastic resources from Jason Everett, The Dating Blueprint. So we have this book as well. So this is What She Wants You to Know About Dating But Will Never Tell You. Nice catch up. So that's a great book. Second book is by Kristalina Everett and Jason, so the husband and wife together. How to Find Your Soulmate Without Losing Your Soul. So that's the other book. So some of the questions that they have here. So while navigating through the dating scene, every woman and man wonders, how do I know when a guy really loves me? Am I being too picky? Do I even deserve love? Is my relationship worth keeping? Is love worth the risk? And are there any decent guys or girls left? So that's just some great questions. And then also the one and only St. John Paul II. This is by no means an equivalent to the Theology of the Body, the full book, but it is the beginner's version, which we have a weekly book study on Wednesday. So you're very welcome to join that. It also is online at 7 p.m. on Wednesday. And we focus on the chapters. So if you didn't make it to any of the other sessions, it's no problem because we just focus on what the chapter is in front of us and we answer the question based on the chapter. So anyway, even if you don't have time, but you want to know and you want to research, it's so important to get the resources because there's only so much that we can say. There's only so much that Father Alan can say. We have to do our own searching. We have to do kind of work, working on ourselves and also working for our future vocation, which could be marriage, but might not be. Okay, so we'll move on. We did the prayer. Okay, so this is a really beautiful couple. I was very privileged, my first wedding, Miriam and Kenny Kavanagh. They're both married and they have 2 little kids. So you can see there is, I think, a sincerity. There is definitely a depthness in the love. But I think we can see that in other photographs. If we look at the Pure in Heart or other U2000 or other Christian Catholic couples, there is something there. It's kind of a little bit untouchable, like you just can't touch it, but you can see it and you can feel it. And I believe that it's exactly what St. Augustine is saying. The deep desire of the human heart is to see another and to be seen. That is the greatest desire. Every single person wants to meet somebody who will see them. They will be seen and they will see the other person. But ultimately, the greatest lover is our Lord, is Jesus. So it's really important that we cannot desire to be in a happy marriage if we ourselves don't know what God's love looks like. So if we don't have a strong relationship with our Lord, we don't know we actually don't know the language of love then, because it is Jesus who teaches us the language of love. And it's only through Jesus that we can actually find true happiness and true love. And then if we're called to marriage, we'll find the right spouse. But it really fundamentally, very, very important, the fundamental is that our prayer life, our relationship with the Lord is the priority. I can even testify to that because a lot of the time why so many of the relationships didn't work is because my priority was not God. I was not deeply rooted in God. I wasn't deeply rooted in a very deep, fervent prayer. Okay, so I'm going to let us discuss at the end, but I'm going to give kind of my own take, Jason Everett's take, Christopher West's take, a bit of maybe Father Alan knowledge from previous years of Pure in Heart as well. So going to give a little bit of everything. So the question would be kind of, okay, so we talked about dating. Who should ask who first on a date? So it's kind of like, people will say, well, it doesn't really matter. It could be a girl, it could be the guy. So there's mixed angles, okay? There's mixed answers. There's so many different ways it can happen. However, I do really believe that we need to kind of go back to, as Jesus says, in the beginning, it was not so. In the beginning. I love when the Lord says that, like he repeats a few times. He says, in the beginning. And I think we need to go back to the beginning. We need to go back to the beginning. And to the beginning, I really do mean the very first book of the Bible, Genesis. And if we can go to the next slide, you'll see what I mean. So I think this is crucial because if we're going to search for love, if we're going to search for our future spouse, we're going to search for marriage. What is marriage based upon? It is based upon the image, the real image of the cross. That's where marriage was first instituted. So, we need to go back to the cross. Who is on the cross? Who is underneath the cross? Who's below? Who's receiving? And I think that this is how we should try to, through the eyes of the cross, is how we should try to look at relationships, especially in dating. And it really does start from the beginning, that we make the first steps from the beginning. So I truly believe that a man should ask the woman. The man is the one who initiates. Jason Everett says, you just got to bite the bullet. You just have to go for it. You put your life. So if you want to put your life in the future, you're going to be literally embodying Christ as a future spouse. So what did Christ do? He crucified himself on a cross. He died for his spouse. He died for his spouse. So, and then the guys are kind of like, but what if, they got rejected before and the girls, didn't treat them well or didn't respect them or didn't give them a dignifying answer. And there's a lot of this brokenness in our culture. And I really do apologize for the men. I actually apologize. Christopher West apologizes, from a man's perspective to the women, how the men have hurt the women. I'll take actually the women's one, because I just think that, if you have been hurt as a man by another woman in the way you have been maybe received badly or whatever it is, go back to the cross, and allow yourself to heal, to purify that, because you're starting anew, you're starting fresh. Whatever your past experiences were, whatever happened in the past, even if you had a past Catholic relationship and it was meant to be Catholic, try your best to go back and purify that, heal from that woundedness, that brokenness, those misconceptions that have happened, and go back to the cross, go back to Christ. He's the one who died. He's the one who crucified himself for his bride. Mary is the bride. She's the one who's receiving him from the cross. She's openly receiving, literally, his blood. It's coming. She's the opening. Last time we spoke about womanhood and the ability of the woman to receive life. She is the only carrier of life. A man can never carry life. Never, ever. So that means that there should be a certain reverence, and that starts with chivalry. And chivalry is really exercised through actions. And by actions in dating is asking and being the initiator, being the mover in the relationship. Can anyone date? That was a really good question. Can anyone date? We had teenagers last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, sorry, Palm Sunday. And I asked this question for the teenagers. I said, can anybody date? And like the teenagers are like, well, yeah, like I suppose, yeah. And then I was like, well, should anyone date? Like, should just anybody just date? And they were like, well, not really. And I said, okay. I gave them an example of me, for example, hypothetically. I said, let's say I'm not ready for marriage. I like the idea of marriage, but I'm not ready to get married like in, let's say if someone proposed to me like tomorrow, I'm ready to get married tomorrow. So like, I'm open to the possibility of marriage. I'd like to get married in marriage, but I'm not too sure. You know, I still have, you know, like study to finish, or I still need to like, what am I going to be doing? Where am I going to be working? I need to figure stuff out. So I have these like, you know, pending questions. And I asked them this question again, can I date? Should I go on a date with a person? And they were like, some said no, you shouldn't. And some said yes. And I said, why do you think I should be allowed to go on a date? And they said, well, because dating, you're just trying to figure out, you're just trying to find out if this person is for you. I said, okay, fair enough. Yes, dating is to figure out if that person is for you. But if that person is doing the same thing, they're trying to figure out, am I the right person for them? And I'm not even in the mind, I haven't even really seriously considered marriage. Like, is that really fair on the other person? Like, this person is so ready, they've spent the time, they've discerned, they've tried religious life, they discerned, they did weekends, they did retreats, they prayed, spent so much time praying, healing, going to spiritual direction. They've put so much work in themselves. And then here I come along and sure, yeah, why not? Let's go for a date. You know, like, is that fair? Is that actually love? Is that true love? Am I willing the good of that other person? You know, I might have good intentions. They could be a really nice person. I might really like spending time with them. I might feel a bit lonely. I like the attraction, you know, of a guy. Oh, I feel liked now because, another guy likes me. That means I'm likable. That means that I'm attractive to the opposite sex. So all these validations are ticking in my head. But am I in a place to actually seriously date someone? No, I'm not. So how do I know if I'm ready for dating? So some questions that I was like thinking for myself and just thinking, what are some good things that we can look at to know if we're ready for dating? Because I think sometimes we just think, oh yeah, how do I date? How do I get a first date? We just want to start dating. Like, there seems to be this boom, like baby booms. There's like these dating booms. And especially in like Catholic circles and Christian circles, there's this pressure that you have to have discerned. What's your discernment? What's your vocation? Have you chosen marriage? Have you chosen religious life? Have you chosen priesthood? There's this massive pressure on young people and this pressure to date. And people just go into dating and they just get hurt. They get hurt. They hurt the other person. And, they have to go back to square one. So these are some questions that I thought were really important to look at. So having a look at our wounds. We don't want to look at our wounds, but we have to, because the other person that we're going to be living with, the wounds are going to be exposed. So they're going to get to know you on a very deep level. So if you haven't gone through your own wounds, don't expect your future spouse to sort them out for you. Because if anything, they'll have their wounds. And a lot of the time, the funny thing that the Lord does is he always matches somehow. This is what Father Timothy says. So he says that in his experience of a kind of a couple's kind of spiritual direction or whatever, is that a lot of the wounds, they actually match. Like in a way, like what annoys like her actually really, really annoys him. And he doesn't want that in that quality in that person. And vice versa. So how is that person meant to help you then if they can't deal with that wound themselves? So this is why it's so important to get the healing to spend time to get the healing. Addictions. A really silent addiction is pornography and masturbation. It's a very silent one. And some people say, well, sure, I'm not watching it every day. I've been really good. It's been 6 months since I last watched porn. Like, okay, maybe you're not addicted. Maybe you're not addicted to pornography. Maybe you're not addicted. However, are you truly healed? Are you free from your passions? Because pornography comes from this desire to have and hold. We want to have and hold this other person. We want to love them. We're so attracted to them. We're attracted to the opposite sex. And what usually sometimes happens is that, really funny sometimes, you can get triggered. So for example, you could have not watched porn for a year. And like, I've been healed, I don't need to watch porn. All of a sudden, when you start dating, and we'll get into physical chastity, you bring in physical embraces with your girlfriend or your boyfriend. You start to bring those in very soon to the relationship. All of a sudden, your porn comes back up. It comes back up. Why does it come back up? Because what has happened is you have just experienced this beautiful person. You are so attracted to them. You don't know what to do with this desire. You should though, if you've got healing. But you don't know what to do with this desire because you didn't get enough healing. So what happens is you release that desire in a disordered way through watching pornography and masturbating. So this is what happens then. And then you sort of fall back into your old habits. And that happens. You're like, how does that happen? How does it keep happening? Healing. We haven't done enough healing. We haven't done enough. We have to, in our moment of ache, like when an ache, like a longing, like a desire, whatever it is, whatever that desire might be, we have to first and foremost turn it to God. We have to cultivate that. A lot of the times, how many times do we just go on our phones? We want to look up something, we just go on our phones, or we just don't know. We just start living or doing things in when we're feeling it, and not bring them to God, not bring them to prayer. Next thing is friends, work, and lifestyle. So that's really important. Like, your lifestyle could be totally not compatible with the family. Like, you could be flat out, like, really working too much. And plus you're studying. Like, are you really ready for dating? So I asked the teenagers, I said, like, you're in secondary school, you're being homeschooled. Do you believe that you're ready for dating? And they're like, not anymore. Not anymore. Not since they understood that dating is for marriage. Why am I dating? Because I have discerned that I want to get married one day. I want to find a future spouse. I'm not dating just because I want to have a friend or I want to have someone to hang out with on the weekend. So lifestyle is so important. What sort of a lifestyle do you have? A lot of people had to change their careers. They had to change their careers. I know people who were doctors, and they had awful shifts, women. They had really bad shifts. And they're like, that's not compatible with me being a woman. I have to change my career because I want to have children one day. Work, so that brings in what? Work. Friends, so important. We don't really take notice about friends, but our friends really influence us. Our friends and our family, especially if they're not in the faith. If they are kind of lukewarm, or they're doing certain things, or maybe they have girlfriends that they're cohabiting with. How is that going to impact you? Not really well. I'm not saying that's it, you cut them off, you block those friends. I'm not saying you go blocking them. But what I'm trying to say is that maybe you need to grow in friendship. Maybe you need to grow in fellowship. Maybe you need to cultivate more friends of the faith, more virtuous friendships before you're ready for dating. Because the beauty, if you do date beautifully with the attention that God has and with God's plan in it, the beauty is that your dating, your courtship will invite others. So other relationships around you, other couples, Christian Catholic couples will bloom and blossom around you. that's the beauty of a relationship. That's the beauty of true friendships, you know, that you'll be able to help each other to grow together, towards sanctity, towards being a saint one day. Okay, cultivate a meaningful prayer life. Like, that is so important, you know. And people say, what do you mean by cultivating a prayer life? Ask Father Alan. Father Alan has a fantastic The Habits of Prayer video on YouTube. So check out the YouTube podcast on the habits of prayer, because Father did a great job in that. And, you know, that is so important. Look at your prayer life. What is your prayer life like? This last one, but not the least. Like, this one goes really, really ignored. And I've ignored it myself. Discerned religious life / priesthood. Every single person who is a baptized Catholic, the more we grow in love for the Lord, the more indifferent we should be to what the Lord wants of us, to what the call He has for us. The closer we journey and we have a meaningful prayer life, sometimes, you know, fantastic. God gives you a calling, and it's direct, and you hear Him saying to you in your prayer, wherever you might be, you have this really clear call. You know, the Lord has asked you to choose marriage, or the Lord wants you to be a priest, or He wants you to be a religious life. That's fantastic. But sometimes I thought that, oh, well, if God hasn't done that, that means that he wants marriage for me. If God hasn't actually said that to me, if He actually hasn't called me, that means I should be called to marriage. But what if I'm blocking that? What if I'm purposely not spending time with religious communities, not doing come and sees, not going on hikes with religious, not going on pilgrimages with religious, not trying to get to learn different charisms of different orders? What if I'm purposely just, you know, blocking all of that, just going to, you know, Pure in Heart and thinking that it's only about marriage? It's not. So, you know, thinking that this is it, and I'm just having this like tunnel vision because I really want marriage. But what if that's not what God wants of you? What if that's not what God actually wants of you? And what if you get into a relationship and you grow in holiness and they grow in holiness, and it's going to be too late if you're going to be like, oh, I can't stand being married. It's just going to be too late, you know? Like, and that's so sad, because so many beautiful souls have unfortunately ended up in situations like this, you know? So important. Like, discern religious life. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do that. And you know, if you're in a relationship, like, you need to be honest. You need to be so honest. You can't be wishy-washy and saying, oh yeah, you know, you can't give false hope. Your intentions have to be so clear. So if you are going in and you're like, no, I want to not just go for a coffee. So after you've gone on a couple of coffees, you've gotten to know each other, you know this person, and you're all in, you want to really court them. This has to be all check, 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 check. All of this has to be checked. Like, you really have to be ready, because if that person has done all this and they're so ready, they're like, yes, oh my goodness, amazing, we're going to get engaged so soon. And then all of a sudden you just literally pull the plug and you go, sorry. Like, no. Like, that's just, first of all, like, you know, I don't need to comment on that, but it's just, now, really rarely, now it does happen, like a person gets a call, yeah, it does happen, but sometimes I've heard this used as an excuse for breakups, and it's really, really sad, and it's so unfair to the people who have chosen religious life and the ones who have been called by the Lord, because it's not a cop-out. This is not a cop-out. So really, really spend time. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to do come and sees. Don't be afraid. I highly recommend this Samuel group. They start back up in September, but you can check them out. They have this Sunday, actually, in Meath, St. Mary's Navan Church. You can come to me afterwards and I can tell you more. But basically, the Samuel group is for anybody, whatever vocation you're discerning, or you're not sure, or you are sure, you know what you want, but you just want to grow deeper in your prayer life and have a structure in your prayer life. They're brilliant because they bring all these aspects in and they try to help you to grow deeper and to become more fervent and to really know, yes, this is my vocation. This is what God wants of me. Okay, called, not want to get married. That's so important. We say, I want to get married. It's also a calling. It's just like religious life, just like the priesthood. It's also a calling. You have to be, in a sense, drawn. You have to be called to it. So if you're called to be married, you need to be open to life. Build a life with one person till the day I die. So till the day you die. That is marriage. You have to be open to life. I know it's a lot more than just this. I know you can flesh it out and I can give it. But bottom line is you're building a life towards sanctity, towards heaven with this one person to the day you die. And you're stuck with them. That's it. Like there's no going back. All of you have heard this. None of you are allowed annulments because all of you know this. All of you have heard this, okay? You know, it's indissoluble. Marriage is indissoluble. It's a beautiful sacrament, but you need to take time. You need to take time with it. You can't rush it. I rushed it, and I know other people who rushed it, and it just doesn't work out. It just does not work out. Just doesn't work out. Okay, back to the fun stuff, a bit of light-hearted stuff. Okay, what makes a date? I'm going to go really quickly. You know this. Asking in person, simple, uncomplicated. Asking in person is so, so important, especially for the first date. Especially for the first date. Guys, please take note. If you ask, you know, it's so important for the girl because she feels honored. She feels seen. She feels known. She feels like her dignity as a woman is upholded and it should be upheld. So that is so important. Like, you know, asking in person is really, really beautiful. And then maybe the more you go, the more you can kind of use other mediums. But in person, nothing can beat that. Set a time, date, and location. So pretty simple. Keep it simple. You're getting to know them. You know, it's uncomplicated. It's simple. You know, you're just getting to know this person. But be prepared. Go through these other things, you know? Go through. Don't start doing them when you're like, you know, if you realize something, be honest and be like, right, okay, I need a bit more time. I need to do more work on this. I need to, you know, see so and so. I need to get a spiritual director. Spiritual directors, important. I'll talk more about them. Okay, physical chastity. So I'm going to do 3 parts of chastity: physical, spiritual, and emotional. So physical chastity. So should we kiss on the first date? When would be appropriate to kiss? How far is too far? Pornography, chivalry, intentionality. Okay, should we kiss on the first date? Who here thinks you can kiss on the first date? Lift up your hand if you think you can kiss on the first date. Be brave if you think it is, right? Okay, I feel like I'm talking to professionals, like people who know how to date. They're mastered the techniques. Absolutely no. Just you're getting to know this other person. Secular dating, this wouldn't even be a question. Oh my goodness, it wouldn't even be a question. When would be appropriate to kiss? That is a really good question. So I used to be of the mindset of like, oh, you know, like as a couple, you kind of figure it out. And look, this is up to you, okay? This is up to you. The Catechism of the Catholic Church does not say after 2 or 3 dates you can kiss. No, that does not happen, okay? So it's up to you. However, from these amazing people who testify to having good holy marriages, and to other couples who have been sharing their testimonies and have been asked this question. Everyone's quiet. Everyone wants to know. Well, to be really honest, a kiss is really meaningful. And in our culture, in our society, we know teenage discos, you just kind of give it away to as many people as you can on the night. So wrong, and really, really disheartening to see that and to know that this is happening. It's the most intimate thing that you can do before marriage. Yeah, so it's the most physically intimate thing you can do. Like two lips kissing, you're sharing each other's lips and the liquids between each other. So I'm not going into too much detail, but like it's very meaningful. It's super meaningful, and it needs to be given credit because it is really meaningful. And like if you really want to know, well, I'm going to be of this opinion. You might totally disagree with me and think I'm a nut job. You might think I'm too traditional, I'm too conservative, whatever you might think of me, that's fine. But from my own lack of and of experience, but I'm going to give the example of the McChrystals. McChrystals gave this example, and I thought it was beautiful and stunning. And in my heart, I was like, yeah, that makes sense. But my head was like, I don't think it's going to work. I don't think that's how things are. You know, when you're really attracted to somebody, you want to, you know, start kissing them. You want to be affectionate, especially if you're a super affectionate person. You know, a lot of Latino people can be very affectionate, but so can other people be very affectionate. But you know, people can be very affectionate. And what they said was that Patrick McChrystal was driving and he had this really clear sign from God that he doesn't want to kiss Therese, his wife, lips until they get married. So he really, really felt that was the call. And you know what? It only took them 6 months to discern that they were for each other. They got engaged after 6 months, and then they got married another three or 4 months later, and then they got a papal blessing then in the new year. So it just showed, whereas couples who started kissing after, you know, their 4th or 5th date, like they have other circumstances, but a lot of them are still, you know, 2, 3, 4 years dating, you know, and because they're getting that little bit of a kick, they're getting that little bit of a buzz. So why do they really need to really commit, you know? Like, and also their vision is also kind of clouded because the oxytocin is working. So they're not really getting to know the other person. So they can't really commit to someone they don't really know. But at the same time, they think they know them. But they actually don't really, because a lot of the time, you know, they spend time in the car or in the room, wherever, and they're just kissing each other, you know? And so if you want really like, oh no, I really think against, I really think, you know, you should be able to be physically intimate. My own, I suppose, mark would be when you're official. When you are officially boyfriend and girlfriend, you are official. And it'll be, you know, you want to seal that with the kiss that you're official. Or even better, when you get engaged. You know, when you're engaged and you're like, actually, I want to kiss this woman on the lips. And if you can go to marriage, praise God, you know. I'm not trying to say that those couples are superior, that they're, you know, far better. I'm not trying to say that at all. There's a lot of really lovely couples who just, it depends on your level of chastity. It's just when you start kissing, it's very easy to get caught up in French kissing, which is no. And that then goes into deeper, and you start to get too far. Then you start asking this question, how far is too far? If you knew when it's appropriate to kiss, you would never have to ask this question, how far is too far? You wouldn't even think how far is too far. You know, you won't be even focusing on this. And a lot of the time, why I think that the kissing should be prolonged as long as possible, because of pornography. Because the kiss stimulates, especially in the male, a release. He starts to build up. He starts to get aroused, and if he hasn't, you know, he can try to pray, and sometimes, you know, a lot of the time, if it works, it works. But sometimes the devil can get the better of him, and he falls to pornography, you know. But if the kissing and the intimacy was, you know, the physical intimacy wasn't very passionate, he wouldn't have need to, or she wouldn't have need to go to pornography to release herself. So I think that's really important. I really do think it starts at the kiss. They say, oh, it's from the kiss, and all these songs. It really is from the kiss. I really do think it is, because it is very intentional, and it can really, really quickly slip into more physicality. Very, very, very quickly. Because then where do you draw the line? So what Patrick McChrystal said was he would kiss Therese above the forehead. So he would kiss her on the forehead. Nothing below the forehead, just the forehead, And then if it was some feast day, he might kiss her hand, and that would be it, But yeah, it's just I think it's good, and I think it's prudent, and I think we should be open to that. We should be open to try to live up to that, And think of the saints. Think of Saint Louis and Saint Zélie Martin. Do you think that they would have rushed to kiss each other? I'm sure they would have, but they would also have had full self-mastery of themselves to respect and to uphold the fullest dignity of each other. So that then coincides with chivalry, coincides with intentionality. So that all brings it together, and chivalry is so important, I think girls, something I want to say to girls is, okay, how do I know if a guy is into me? Like, oh, he hasn't really said anything, we haven't gone on a date, or he hasn't asked me on a date, and you have these questions, you don't know the intentionality, you don't know what's going on. He's very chivalrous, he's opened the door, he's driving you, he's picking you up, or whatever it is, he's being very chivalrous. First of all, for the girls, if a guy has not expressed that he wants to go for a coffee with you, or that he wants to go for a walk, or that he wants to meet you, basically, that means there is nothing there. Absolutely nothing there. I'm very sorry, but there is nothing there. And the guys, if you think you're doing something, you have to ask, you have to step up. And then if a guy is doing that, be very careful, because so many girls felt used. They felt like, oh, he was being so nice to me, he was constantly giving me lifts, and now there's nothing. So be really careful, guys. This goes into, I think, next one is emotional chastity. This goes into emotional chastity, respect towards sensitivity, like modesty in words and behavior. If you like one girl, you like this one girl, you can't also be super friendly and nice to every other girl in the room, or any other girl. I know you want to be a gentleman, and you can be a gentleman, by holding the door open, but doing big gestures, like being one-to-one, like driving, or, being one-to-one, like going to a coffee with a girl, that you have no intentions of dating her, you're only being immodest in your behavior, and you're breaking emotional chastity. You're not being emotionally chaste, and you're luring these girls on. And if the other way happens as well, girls do this, girls don't do this to guys, If you're not interested in the guy, don't be leading him on. Don't be leading him, and he thinks that you want something, that you actually want a relationship, not want something, sorry, that you want a relationship with him. And then, be really, really careful in that as well, and respect the guy as well, respect his time. And also, be careful in this as well, because I think that's something very prudent. We have to be prudent in that. I think as Irish people, we can be super friendly, yeah? We can be very friendly, we want to be really nice to everybody, but our actions do speak louder than our words. Our actions speak louder than our words, remember that. So when do I say I love you? Asking questions about how many kids, wedding venue numbers, like, this is totally not emotionally chaste. Like, if you're dating, you're not even engaged, how many kids do you want to have, the wedding venue, like, I'm laughing at this because I ask these questions myself, okay? And it's like funny to look back. Kind of sad, but anyway, like, it's funny to look back, because it's like a lot of girls, girls fall into this, We need to be so careful. We need to be so careful with our hearts. We have to protect our hearts, and chastity helps to do that. When do I say I love you? I think that is very similar to the kiss. I think it's very similar to the kiss. It's like, really meaningful. I'll tell you another quick story. This other couple, Sean and Sarah Flack. You can also look up Sean's testimony on the YouTube. He did a YouTube podcast with her, Sean Flack. And basically, he had his heart broken once, many times, but one especially. He was engaged to a girl, and they were engaged. Imagine, engaged. Engagement does not mean you're married. Remember that. So if you discern out of the relationship, that's okay. But anyway, he was engaged to this girl. And literally a month before their wedding, only a month before their wedding, she called it off. She called off the wedding. And he was so heartbroken. He was really, really heartbroken because he really loved her, you know, and he said, like, I love you. And it meant so much to him. That word meant so much to him. And he said it to her so many times, you know, and he was really hurt and he needed time. You know, if that, you know, any breakup, you need time to recover. You can't rush your healing. In whatever time you need to heal. But anyway, why am I saying this? It's because he realized the importance of I love you. He realized how important it was. And he was like, I'm only going to say this at the altar, because then I truly love this person. What does love mean? It means to die to yourself, to give all of yourself, to sacrifice. So we say, like Harry says this all the time, I love pizza, I love, you know, I love flowers, and we say love, love, love. But when we say I love you to somebody, we just say it casually sometimes as well, and especially in relationships, you know, but it's very significant. So I would also, you know, really think about that. Really think about when are you going to say I love you to this person? Is it going to be when you get engaged? Is it going to be when you're official boyfriend, girlfriend? I think that's the lowest bar. I think the lowest bar should be that when you're official. When you're official boyfriend and girlfriend, you know, if you want to kiss, you know, appropriately and say I love you. But I personally wouldn't go for that. I would raise it higher, because I believe that what's going to, you know, if you're going to give that when you're official, what are you going to give when you're engaged? What are you going to give when you're married? You know, so I think it's really important. And then especially when you're dating, it's a process of discerning marriage with that person. You're discerning marriage with that person. That doesn't mean that they're your spouse. It doesn't mean they're the ones you're going to marry. You're only discerning, you're only seeing, are we right for each other? Will we bring each other to heaven? That this is what it is. So if you're giving them all these, you know, lovey language, promising them things, like, that's also breaking emotional chastity. That's also, like, that can have huge consequences. Huge. Like the amount of girls that get depression, anxiety, you know, literally health problems. You know, they can't even have normal cycles. Like, it impacts massively. Like, I know how much it impacted me when I went through my own breakup. So, and I'm sure it also impacts the guys, you know. Oh yeah, texting and talking after midnight. Very, very, nothing good happens after midnight. Father Alan said this to me. This was 3 years ago. But yeah, something I think is really hard to remember, but it's just being prudent. Fighting over the phone. If you happen to get into a disagreement, you know, try to resolve it in person. Hold it. Don't try to talk it out on the phone. Wait until you see each other. It doesn't mean you need to go right now and resolve it at 12 o'clock at night. You know, wait until you've prayed about it and give him more time. Broken promises acknowledged and respect. Oh yeah, we did that. And hold your word. I think that's really important. Emotional chastity. Like, be a woman and a man of your word. Like, if you said something, you know, uphold it. And if you couldn't meet it, just say sorry. I missed it there. Okay, if we keep going. Okay, spiritual chastity. I just quickly go through this one. So the end goal is heaven. That is fundamental. I think we can sometimes forget that. We think that, you know, the end goal is the marriage. The end goal is not the marriage. The end goal is heaven. Sometimes we force a relationship to work, and it's not meant to work. You're not meant for this person. So prayer and God, spiritual direction. I'm just going to say this. I already mentioned virtuous friendships, confessions, regular confession, virtuous faith groups, accountability is so important to build a friendship. Spiritual direction is really important. When you're discerning something so delicate as a future spouse, you really need another outsider, you know, to really who knows you, who in a way has gotten to know you through many encounters. Bless you. So it's so important to spend the time to meet your spiritual director, to find a spiritual director, to speak to them. And they'll be able to help you as well to see clearer and to discern more wiser. Okay, these are two last things to sum it up. love should never send you to the confession line. I'm going to say true love should never send you to the confession line. Because love in our world, like, can be any sort of love, right? But true love, agape love, God's love, which is what we want in our relationships. If that's the love we desire, you know, we should never send the other person to confession. We should not. And if it happens, of course, go to confession. You know, I'm not saying break up with the person, but I am saying be like, this is, if you're going to confession a lot because you're with this person, you really need to really think, is this person for you or not? If they're bringing you further away from God, not closer from God, if you look at that's why I think people should journal. If you don't have a journal, I think people should get a journal, and you should journal, you know, have a prayer journal. And if you look back on your prayer journal, it'll be really helpful how many times you went to confession. Write down when you go to confession what advice the priest gave you, whatever you got in confession, whatever you want to say confession. So you can see how regular your confession was. Then when you get into a relationship, all of a sudden it's almost every week or every 5 days confession, or after every time you see them confession. Well, you really need to consider, where is this going? What sort of a love is this? Is it a love or is it a lust? And that can be really hurtful, and it can be really painful. And you have to put the boundaries in. That's why I think being very intentional with the kissing. It's so intentional, because if you're not intentional with the kissing and you just kiss whenever you feel like it, whenever you're in a nice moment, this is just going to lead you to this. It's inevitable. We're human, we're fallen, and it's how the devil gets into relationships, is true impurity in relationships and between a man and woman. You deserve a slow love, uncomplicated, no rush, sure, stable, consistent. You deserve that love. You deserve someone that's sure of you and that you're sure of. If this is like, I'm not too sure, I think we're doing good, I think we're doing fine, ask yourself these questions. Sorry, I could go on and on and on. Keep going. I do want you to discuss. Okay, ultimate goal is heaven. Our future spouse's duty by marriage is to lead the other to heaven. Print this and put it on your wall. Put it on your mirror everywhere. Ultimate discernment question. This is people say, how do I know if this is the one? This is the ultimate discernment question. Is this person bringing me closer or further away from God? Will we be able to make each other saints? Will we be able to make each other saints? Ask this question. If it's a maybe, well then, take a break. Take a break and discern and get your head clear and start again. Okay. Thank you. There's nothing on this earth to be prized in true friendship. Build a friendship. Don't rush in the whole intimacy thing, you know. We rush towards, being sensual with the other person. Build a true friendship. How can I be intentional? I already told you how you can be intentional. Oh, The Princess Cut. Fantastic movie. Excellent movie. I wanted to show you a little clip of how intentional the guy is to the girl, but I think it's a bit late, yeah. So I'm going to leave you to discuss. I'm going to leave you on a cliffhanger. You have to watch this movie on YouTube. Yeah, it's a bit, people say like that movie, oh, it's so cringe, oh, it's not possible. It's a true story, and that's how people date it. And people still do date. We think it's not realistic, but it is realistic. And it might be a bit cringy, it might be a little bit gooey, but no, it's the truth. The truth is pure. It is pure. And if a movie makes us feel cringe, it's because our world is so impure. And when we see something pure, it cringes us because it's too good for us. It's just too good for us to see. And we just feel uncomfortable because we're not used to it. And that's sad. We should be used to seeing these happy and positive movies. Anyway, another time possible, what possible dates, you're all experts by the stage. So enjoy the process. Enjoy it, okay? I'm sorry, I kind of sometimes come across like it's like a checklist, but enjoy the process. Enjoy the process. Discussion question. Okay, now it's up to you. So these are the 3 questions. Make a groups of, I think, 4. Yeah, groups of 4. And these are the 3 questions. What do you think is the biggest challenge when dating with with dating for husband and wife is. So what do you think the biggest challenge is when you're wanting to look for a future spouse? Do you think it is different depending on your gender? Why, and what are the challenges as a young Catholic? And what can help you keep the faith in a waiting season? So yeah, if you need to go, we can turn on the lights, but if you need to go, thank you so much. We have a First Friday vigil tomorrow. We'll have 2 masses. We have a Friday mass and a Saturday mass. So you'll get your first Friday and Saturday, both the devotions, you'll get them in. Oh, and we have a cake sale this Sunday. So if you want to bring any cakes tomorrow, we'd really appreciate it. I'll put a little reminder on the group chat. And one other thing was the Glendalough hike. Glendalough hike next Sunday. Please send me an email if you want to come, just so I know for carpooling, because we're going to carpool. Yeah, so we can turn on the lights and we can just discuss these questions together, kind of informally.